like listening for crickets.
And we are coming to you live right from the little vault in just outside of Dallas for Triple T number 47, November 22nd, 2022. The year is winding down. My name is tswv. I call myself a professional problem solver, and I keep forgetting to mention my website, which is tswv.com. The tall, skinny white boy. Yes, now you know what it stands for. The tswv.com. And this is also streaming live on my YouTube channel, which is tswv Hertz. What else? I keep forgetting. You'd think after 47 of these, I should just have a little cheat sheet right over there, but all the fun stuff that is YouTube, please hit subscribe and ring the bell and share with friends, and please leave comments. I do enjoy them, good or bad. Helps me know how I'm doing. And I was a little pleased and surprised today. I checked my settings in my YouTube, and I've got a number of our recordings that have hit 40 views. Got one that has hit 50 views. So, thanks for your support. I appreciate every one of them. But and with the holiday season upon us here in America, and spring and summer on the way for those of you down under, lots of activities going on. So I received a couple of emails and a couple of texts that people will be checking in late today and possibly having to watch the recording. So they are here with us in spirit. So if you can channel their spirits, bring up whatever questions they may have and whatever questions, comments, ahas, epiphanies you had during the week in the last 7 days since we did this. Anybody got anything they would like to share? That makes it easy. I guess we'll be jumping right into this week's findings that I posted on Facebook. We got goals, objectives, and resolutions, energy massage, and pain relief, and then a few other things tucked up my sleeve. Today's first one, goals, objectives, and resolutions, actually came from an Instagram video that I watched. Yes, I'm actually one of those that follows a bunch of people that have informative information stuff. And we're going to start with just the goals versus objectives. Oh, well, Lenora, you could have jumped on and shared that right away. You can do it now.
I forgot to mention it. I did 6 consults in the last week, so I'm pretty excited. I know.
Right
I feel
on.
like I have like pom-poms and fireworks.
Well, you should. And this is going to tie right into that. What a perfect goals versus objectives. And the gist of the conversation was you shouldn't be setting goals nearly as much as people are pushing it. Gotta have goals. What's your goal? What are you trying to do? And that's fine for certain settings, but it's less than conducive for others. And the thought process behind it was when you set goals, when you don't meet them or you have the challenges meeting them, it puts a hard hit on your confidence and your self-image. And the reason I wanted it so perfect for right now New Year's is upon us, and everybody likes to have that New Year's resolution, which is all about goals. And rarely do you hear objectives. And one of the ways I looked at the difference between the two. Say you're going on a road trip. Goals versus objectives would be, we have to be in this town by 6 p.m. tonight, and you don't take into account the weather, traffic detours, things of that nature, and you don't make it. Now you're like, and I had all that. Versus objectives would be, we're going to see how far we can get in this direction tonight. That way, if you make it to that town, awesome. If you don't, or you make it past that town, it's still awesome. You've made it as far as you can in that direction, which was the objective versus the goal. The other way I looked at it was in losing weight. And New Year's resolutions, what is one of the number one resolution? I'm gonna lose weight. And they set this number that will be dictated by their awful mean machine that sits on the floor that they jump on to see if they're meeting their goal. Versus the objective being possibly body shape instead of body weight. What do you want to improve? Well, I want a flatter stomach. That doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to lose pounds. For those of us that have been around fitness long enough, we understand the size difference between a pound of fat and a pound of meat is quite considerable. And I've had a number of clients, because I get weight loss quite a bit as well. And they're like, wow, I've been working out and I've only lost 2 pounds. And I'm like, how do your pants fit? Well, my pants are really loose, but I still haven't lost, I've only lost 2 pounds. I'm like, yeah, you lost inches. What was your objective? Well, I wanted to lose 20 pounds. That's a goal. What was your objective? Maybe it's to have better abilities in your fitness. Maybe it's the ability to run a certain distance without getting winded. Now, if you're a power lifter, you can have your goal set. I want to be able to lift X amount of pounds. But you could still switch it, I think, a little more safely into, I want to lift at least this amount of pounds. Instead of making it a hard goal, you want to be in this range or above. Does that make sense? Anybody got any input, ahas, epiphanies that you'd like to share on that? Please.
Sorry. So I know a lot of people are very, and I used to hate setting goals, and I definitely have gotten much better about setting them because of the exact thing that you mentioned. You would feel like shit. And after enough repeated fails, you're like, well, flip it. What about when they, like, if you're thinking about punching something into the GPS and setting your sights on a goal, and there are so many conflicting things that say have a measurement amount and don't have a measurement amount, you know, have that finite exact number that you want. Is it kind of just a personal thing, massaging it where you feel is in alignment with you?
I would still put it into one of the talks that we had a number of times a while back about the person who enjoys the journey will go much further than the person who goes for the destination. And if you can reframe your mind, it's not that having things you want to achieve is the issue. We need those. We need to have something to shoot for, something to work towards. But when you start setting hard goals, hard dates, hard limits, that's when your conscious and your subconscious have the ability to start beating you up. And you start interpreting, well, what are other people going to think about me? I mean, I told the world that I was going to da 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 da, and I didn't do it, and I'm a failure, oh my God, oh. Whereas if you were to set it as an objective, my objective is to get to this point as efficiently and as quickly as possible. Oh, it's a detour. Well, I'm still on the objective. And objectives can change and grow exponentially because you're still on the objective. Whereas if you find yourself constantly changing your goals, just like with resolutions, how many people beat themselves up? I think what was it, last time or the time before when we were here, I talked about for the dedicated gym people, what 6 weeks do they hate the most? The very first 6 weeks of the year. Because they had the gym to themselves for 10 and a half months. Nothing. Crickets. They showed up. They could have any machine they wanted. Everybody there knew everybody there. And they had their own rhythm. Hey, Bob, good to see you. Da, 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 da. They worked through. And then January 1 comes around. And the population of the gym increases tenfold. And you want to be able to be there to support the people that have made their resolution. But I've even been in that situation, and you look at some of them, you're like, what are you doing here? Well, I need to get fit. I'm like, yes, I know, you got yourself a brand new outfit and those brand new sneakers look amazing on you. And I'm glad you showed up with your triple caramel frappe latte with, a double sugar swirl and your Cinnabon so that you could walk on the treadmill for a couple of minutes while you were texting your bestie, taking pictures for your Facebook and your Instagrams, and yes, new goals. And they just sort of start dropping off. And you hope that a couple of them will stick around because you don't mind helping those that really want the help. One Instagram that I watched a couple of days ago was, I can't remember his name, but he's been working out and in fitness for almost his entire life. And he watched this overweight lady in a wheelchair wheel herself into the gym. And she's sitting there and she's only using like 3 pounds or something like that. And she's breaking a sweat. And he goes, that? And it wasn't the first 6 weeks of the year either. This is like mid-October. And he said that was more inspiring to him than the gym rats that are there every single day, making sure that everybody hears that they've lifted that weight so they could drop it on the ground and do their mirror flexes. And she said that later on, because he had he was nice enough to approach her and tell her that, it gave her inspiration to keep coming back. Yay, winning. Did she set goals or was she on an objective? Yep. And so my hope on this is for all the people that are going to see this before New Year's and are looking at doing the big old New Year's resolution, please be careful how you word it and your intentions behind it. Try to make them objectives with directions in mind, but be careful about setting any hard goals. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I offer a free 30-minute consult that we can talk about anything. I'd be more than happy to help you clarify any of these things, especially with the new year coming up. And that only burned up 17 minutes. Oh, good, please.
So do you completely avoid setting goals, or you just favor objectives, and if it needs to be a goal, and then what would the defining line be, I guess?
I think the message that I'm trying to state here is understand the difference between a stated goal and a stated objective. Again, back to the traveling. You know, if you're on business or if you're a truck driver and you know that you have to be parked at the dock Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., that is a goal, but you can still set the objective to be at the property or within a mile or two of the property sleeping the night before as an objective. And you can tie your goals, you can tie objectives to goals to try and give yourself better alignment to achieving goals. But after it really hit me about the number of people that put so much weight on goals, and when things don't work out, even if it's outside of their control, again, detours and whatever, that it hits them in confidence, self-esteem, all the above. And that's a hard, slippery slope to try and deal with. Whereas if you were to word it differently as an objective, it doesn't hit nearly as hard. And it allows you to continue on and change your objective. And that can even be within the scope of the destination of the goal. That makes sense?
It feels much more moldable and literally like clay, like you can manipulate it into what you want it to be versus something very, very hard and without any wiggle room or means of manipulation.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yep. And again, for all the people that are going to be making the resolution for weight loss and fitness, instead of saying how many pounds you're going to lose, decide what you want your body to look like instead. I would like to, have a flatter stomach. Well, most of the people in the fitness realm know that a majority of the abs are made in the kitchen, not in the gym. Start looking at lifestyle choices and food choices and things of that nature, and target exercises that benefit the core, which is majorly important anyway. Maybe I want my arms to be better definition. But again, out of irony, they do this for a year and realize that they've lost a whopping 5 pounds, but had to buy a completely different wardrobe because they completely changed the shape of their body. It went to lean muscle mass versus the soft, cuddly, fluffy. And if you're soft, cuddly, fluffy, it's okay. This is for the people that want to change. Stop typing. So, anything else, you guys? Yes, please.
Yeah, all of what you're saying reminded me of a conversation I had recently with someone sort of on the topic of discipline. And it was pretty much the same thing, but transposed into that territory where it's, a lot of people think discipline is, as soon as the second hand of the clock gets to 8 o'clock, I'm going to get up and I need to do this thing. And then that's finished. Or if they're on a diet, it's, I eat 25 grams of rice and and as soon as they vary that or they don't follow that for one day, they think the whole train has come off the rails, and the whole process is ruined, and therefore I might as well give up because I'm a terrible person. But I was kind of saying to them, that's not what discipline is, or at least that's not a useful definition of it. Useful definition is more that discipline is more about being conscious about the choices that you make. Because really, if you're trying to diet, you can have a chocolate bar and your body will go, okay. And you'll just kind of keep going and it won't even kind of register on the radar. But obviously, if you have too many candy bars, now you're going in a different direction rather than a different thing. And so it becomes more about, if I consciously choose to have this chocolate bar, then it's all right. But if I sort of start to mindlessly do that, and therefore don't have the discipline to consciously make these choices, that's when it kind of starts to fall off, start to wander off the path. But again, it's, I guess, to tie it back to what you said, it's not like you're doing perfectly or you're not. It's not that you're doing well or it's you're not accomplishing anything at all. It's a gray area, or like an analog scale where you can go down to 90% and that's still fine. You could probably go down to 50% of your effort and that's still fine. But consciously making the choices that you do is the key thing, I think.
And you hit on something very good there. I'm glad you brought that up, because a vast majority of the people know the right choices to make. One of the fitness trainer that I spent some time around said he never tells his clients what to eat. What he does is asks them in the morning or when they show up, what did you eat yesterday? Tell me everything you ate yesterday. Everything. And now his clients are going, well, then I had and is that in alignment with your objective? Well, no. What could you have had instead that would have been just as satisfying? Well, and if they can't think of something there, they know that they didn't make the correct choice. But by offering them other alternatives after they've come up with their own reasoning that what they did wasn't the best option for them, it stuck better. And that's why he does it. He goes, I can sit there and print up, there's meal plans, and we've got access to the internet now. You can come up with 37,000 different meal plans, and and this and keto and the grapefruit and and I hate the word diet. Always have. To me, it's the word die with the letter T behind it to mask it. There's so much information now that, yes, they finally figured out that the food pyramid was actually a marketing scheme put together back in the day by, well, you can look that up.
Ansel Keys.
What's that?
Ansel Keys.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book called Death of the Food Pyramid, and it's excellent, and it will show you how manipulated the data is. Yet somehow still in 2022, we still refer to this.
Yeah. Well, those that research this stuff don't refer to, well, we refer to it, but a completely different way than the majority. And some of you may or may not have seen the latest dietary suggestions that came out.
The last one I saw was that the FDA approved meat grown in laboratories.
And
that's sustainable.
Sweets were ranked higher than a steak. So
higher on what scale? Like higher, you should eat more of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It's gotten that. Look it up. I could talk about it, but that will just make me require a lot more state control on my behalf, because when I saw it, it's one of those like, was this written by a 5-year-old who likes cake? I mean, really. But again, the trainer, like I said, the people that he was working with, he didn't have to tell them that the 3 Snickers bars that they had for lunch was probably not the best choice. All he had to do was ask them, and they were able to, they knew. I mean, you don't have to, go ahead.
It's right along the lines that the subconscious will accept what it says versus being told. I think I misworded that, but Aaron, here we go. It's like Aaron's nodded. That it'll reject if it was said by somebody else, but if it was said by you, you're more likely to accept it.
Exactly.
Aaron raised so many awesome points, especially with self-discipline. And I have found that, especially when if you're trying to stick with something and you go a little bit off the deep end, what actually happens, the reason you just completely go tumbling down is that critical voice goes into full throttle, and it just takes you, and it's very difficult to recover unless you can manage the critical voice and the other things that are coming up. So that's why it's phenomenal to work with the subconscious. Thank you.
And I would like to add to that the importance of celebrating every little victory. In fact, I had one today or yesterday at Home Depot. Those of you that know me, I'm about this close to getting my mail delivered to Home Depot right now because I'm spending so much time there. It'd be easier for me. But we were doing something and something went right, and and watched the number of people, because I'm by the customer service desk. They all turned, big smiles. The people they were working on, all big smiles. A couple of people about 5 aisles down saw 2 smiles. And I told the people, or the 3 ladies that were working with me, I said, you need to start teaching everybody to do that for everything, because how many people do you think I just affected by doing that pose? And I said, did you feel better when I did it? And the one lady was like, she got a smile on her face. I said, yeah, you smiled. So did they, so did they, so did they. And a couple people 3 aisles down smiled. And it cost me nothing. Simply this. Yes. And of course, I have the advantage being 6'4". They can see me for, 7 aisles. But even if you're 5'1", should be doing it. That brings us to the halfway part. Anything else we want to add to goals, objectives, resolutions? The journey instead of the destination. We got that pretty well covered.
So if somebody had actually said to you, I just want to be here, I just want to get this done, how would you go about reframing that component and working it from that angle, getting them to focus on the journey and how they might enjoy it more?
What's important to you about getting it done within this time frame? If without more context, it's a little bit challenging. But even then, drilling down to values and criteria, perceived limitations, 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem that can arise. All of these are tools to help people flow through these type of situations easier.
Would you ask what's important about not enjoying the journey, or what's important about enjoying the journey, or getting there as soon as possible?
If they've brought up the topic, chances are they're probably already having challenges with the journey.
Okay.
And you can identify them to see if it's something that is legitimately an issue, if it's a hardware or software issue. And those of you that, I'm not talking just computers, to explain it again, a hardware issue would be if you're 4'11" and you want to be a major pro basketball star. Not that you can't, it's just more of a challenge. Software issue is I don't quite understand exactly how to do it, but there are YouTube videos and there are people, and a number of people have done it before me. I just haven't learned how to do it as well as I could. That would be a software issue. That makes sense? So identifying those things, again, can help you reframe and send people in a better direction. I get to do that all the time. And a lot of times it's a minor software issue. Aaron?
I've noticed in this call you have quite long gaps in your sentences, and so normally when you're talking to someone you wait for a pause to politely kind of jump in, and you never quite know whether you've finished a whole idea or I'm just in the middle of something and I'm going to come back in a second now. But I was going to tag into what you just said, because that you mentioned sort of that idea of celebrating little wins, as you go along, and it is important, particularly with a group of people like us, where we're sort of proactively working on evolving ourselves and improving ourselves, and it can be really easy to, as Fran would say, shift the goalposts, without sort of realizing, and kind of go, okay, well, yes, I've got that, but what about this? And instead of looking back and kind of going, you weren't even doing that thing that you're doing now, even yesterday or last week sort of thing, and now you're doing it without even thinking about it, and you've already moved on to the next thing without even considering how big of a leap you've just sort of made. So I wanted to add some weight to what you just said. So it's not a suggestion.
Thank you for that. And two things on there. You are allowed to interrupt me. You're allowed to, because I've got squirrels coming from 28 different directions, and I just try and keep up with them the best I can. But in teaching, and especially with working with Dr. David Snyder for the years that I did, you're right. It was funny how many times day one we would bring up a protocol, and everybody's like, oh my God. Day three, they're knocking it out like this, and they're concerned about the next thing we're going to add on. And we're like, you do realize 2 days ago, you thought that the first step was the mountain range, and now you're walking over it like an anthill. So
there was something I came across that it piggybacks right off of Aaron first, thinking like that this shifting the goalpost of, oh my God, I still have this to go, but realizing how far you came, and that you should focus on how far you've come versus constantly looking how far you have to go.
And I think part of how that could tie in is the difference between making a touchdown being a goal, making 10 yards at a stride being an objective. And as long as you keep, I'm going to try to advance as many yards as possible on every play. And all of a sudden you realize that you've gone 13 football fields instead of making the touchdown and go, okay, whew, thank God that's finally over, and I should have done it in half the plays we did. I can't believe I suck, but because I watched so and so catch the football at the other end of the field, and he ran it all in one shot. Yeah, well, you're not him. You did the best you could on every play. And if it took you 37 plays to get a touchdown, you got a touchdown. And standing next to him is a teammate who his only objective is, I'm going to get as many yards as possible on every play. And he enjoyed the whole game. Elijah.
Hello. Morning.
Morning.
Another thing, I think I know what you're talking about. So haven't been here too long, but I think I picked it up where you're at. Another thing, especially with like lofty goals, like, big goals, like life-changing goals, is like, you don't know what you don't know. True or false?
Yeah,
You
sure.
don't know what you don't know. And yet, people will try to predict where they're going to be like 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now, right? But the thing is, until you've been through today, how are you going to know like stuff that you're going to experience and go through and learn from? And that might change things in your mind, whether it's adjusting the goal slightly, or whether it's refining your process, or improving your technique, or like all sorts of things. You won't know until you have more experience, until you gathered more data. So it's like, if you were to imagine like a timeline, right? And like, I'm here and I want to get to there, right? But by the time I get to about here, what if I learn something that changes my whole outlook? Right? Like, what if I read a book, or I went to a new place, or I met some new people, and someone there had more experience than me, or has already achieved the thing that I'm trying to do, and then they gave me some tips that I'd never even thought of before. So this is another reason why I'm a big advocate of like setting a direction towards what you want, rather than like a pinpoint goal thing, right? And remaining flexible within yourself, that, because like I'm a hypnotist, right? And I like to think I'm all right at it, I'm not bad, right? But where I am today with the work I do is not even close to where I thought I wanted to be when I started. It's not even close, right?
Right.
It's like I met people, and I flew around the world, and I went to classes and saw trainers, and read books and attended seminars. And every time you learn something new, you're like, oh, wait, hold on, I'm going to go down this path for a little while. No, wait, now I'm going to go down this path for a little while. And you can't connect those dots going forwards on that timeline. It's only once you get there, or even beyond, right, and you look back, that you can connect the dots. And then you realize, oh, it couldn't have happened any other way, right?
I kind of touched.
Fall. Sorry, I'll
No.
like, even the times you fall, or you mess things up, right? It's all valuable later on. It's just in that moment you feel a bit rubbish, or you feel a bit down. You feel like, oh, things didn't go too well today, or whatever. But if you keep going, because like, when people feel inadequate, or they feel bad about their attempt, and they say, oh, I failed, or something to that effect, what they're doing in effect is judging a slice of time and saying, well, from that moment to that moment, I messed things up and I'm a failure because of that. But what if you looked at it over a period of like months or years?
Yep.
And would you not agree that you're smarter today than you were 5 years ago? Do you know what I mean? Would you not agree that you're wiser today than you were 5 years ago? But maybe 3 years, 2 days, and 17 hours ago, you slipped up and made a mistake of some sorts, and you gave yourself a hard time. But actually, if you extend the window of time that you're judging, rather than just judging that moment, if you extend it and say, well, okay, I messed up today, but over the past 2 years, I've made a lot of progress, haven't I? Do you know what I mean? So it's all about kind of learning to see things not necessarily in a different way from the way you have, because the way you have can also be valuable, but learning to allow yourself to notice things from many different angles, many different perceptions and interpretations, and then upon taking all the information in from various angles and directions and interpretations, then decide how you're going to adjust your plan, how you're going to increase efficiency going forward, how you're going to, you know, like, oh, I had this thing and I was doing it this way, but now I learned something, so I'm going to do it slightly differently from now on.
And when you brought up lofty goals and all of this stuff, it reminded me of the metaphor that I used, I think, last week about when you're driving a car, you have a destination that in mind where you're headed to, but you can still only see so much of the road. Especially at night, you can only see as far as the headlights will show you, regardless. And when it comes to lofty goals,
even if you know that the route that you're on is the fastest way to get to where you want to go, what if there's traffic along the way? Would you not adapt? Would you not go around? Would you not? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is exactly the point I was trying to make. Thank you.
Well, and the people that have self-esteem issues or things of that nature, and they freeze, they won't do anything because, but the trip could be so far, or it could, I've never done that before, and what if it doesn't work? Well, yeah, but what if it does? What are you doing right now?
If it doesn't, would you not want to find out sooner rather than later? If it doesn't work, I'd rather know now it doesn't work than wait 2 years, then take my shot and figure out it didn't work when I could have found it out today instead of 2 years from now. Because then I could spend the next 2 years trying other things.
Yes. Well, I've got a couple of friends and stuff that are retired. And, well, I don't know how to do that. And I love giving them a hard time. I'm like, well, if your boss will let you have a day off, maybe you could research it. Well, I don't know how to use the internet. Well, if your boss could give you a day off or two, you could actually, start figuring out how to do it. Do you know how to, have you watched any funny cat videos on YouTube? Oh yeah, they're hilarious. Well, if your boss will give you a day off, instead of watching funny cat videos, you could research how to, do this or do that.
See, where can you get the time to do what you need to do that's not taken away from the time of doing things that you want to do?
Exactly. And stuff.
And on top of this, this idea of setting a direction rather than a goal is more rewarding, because let's say you've got a goal of, I want to be X number of kilos. That's my goal. And let's say it takes you a year to do that. So you go about your routine, you get to the end of the year. Sorry, there's sirens in the background. They're coming for me. You get to the end of the year and you step on the scale and you've reached your goal and you get to go, woohoo! So you get to celebrate once, right? But if you've just got a direction, then every time you step on the scale and it's lower than the time it was before, then you get to go woohoo. And you get to have multiple woohoos continuously as much as you want.
And thank you so much for bringing that up. That is another major thing about goals. Like you said, even through Weight Watchers and things of that nature, they have found such a high majority of people that go on diets and they set a goal weight and then they hit it and bounce right back. And then they get into this yo-yo routine where they're like, oh, I got to lose weight. Okay, I lost it. Now I can take my foot off the pedal. Oh, no, now I got to lose it again, which is harder on your body anyway.
See, you don't want to lose weight to get healthy. You want to get healthy to lose weight.
Amen. Perfectly stated. Yes.
right?
Yes, yes, yes.
If you focus on, like Aaron said, the little decisions, right? He said the little decisions that you make, and something about discipline or whatever. I know I wasn't here when that happened, but I was secretly watching you on YouTube, right? So yeah, the little decisions that you make moment to moment and all that. I kind of
And
lost my.
a couple of the clients that came to me for losing weight, when I asked them if they had researched what type of recipes had they researched for healthy eating, and what did they think it tastes like. I know this is going to shock you, but a lot of them thought that they were going to have to give up good tasting food to lose weight. And so I turned them on to a couple of different things like eat clean recipes and stuff like that. And they're like, dude, I tried this eat clean recipe in the crock pot the other night. It was so good that even the kids, I mean, like, no leftovers, no nothing. I thought I had enough food for a week and it was gone. I said, okay. Did you tell the family that it was healthy? Well, no. Good. You just start cooking that way and get them off of the sugars and the sodas and the junk food, and start cooking meals that they don't realize are healthy for them. And one of my clients was an older gay couple, and both of them had health issues. Both needed to lose weight. The one was on like 7 or 8 different medications. And so I helped them out and restructured, reframed some stuff and turned them on to a bunch of these recipes. And then I didn't get a maintenance call for about 6 months, and I came back, and Ray Charles could see the transformation on these guys. It was phenomenal. And the one guy that was on all the meds was down to 2. And one guy came up, gives me a big hug, and he goes, "You saved our life." Absolutely. And I'm like, no. He goes, "No, you don't understand. We'd tried many diets, and one of the first things I told him, I said, no more diets. It's a lifestyle. Saves your life, and you're going to do it for the rest of your life. And you're going to start making different choices." And yeah, the last I heard, both of them are still thin and healthy and kicking it and more energy than most of the people their age now. Whereas before, the one guy could barely walk around the block without needing an inhaler. So, yes, but that took up our whole hour. So those of you that were tuning in for energy, massage, and pain relief, we might fit that in. But as I usually do, I'll give the option early. We have 6 minutes left in the first hour. Did you guys have anything else you want to offer up on what we've been talking about so far?
I had a squirrel that came across the road about the topics that we were talking on.
Perfect. Squirrels are
Awesome. I'm so glad you guys want to hear about that. Critical voices, how to manage them when manipulation of the sound, such as like going to Mickey, if it's not holding. So if you're more doing it on your own. So, and sometimes you can play with it, but it doesn't stick.
Anybody want to chime in and help? I've got my ideas, of course.
Question. Do you want to change what the voice says, Or do you want the voice to go away?
It would be for the voices to go away. So especially like ones that are overly critical.
Okay, so where you are now, pick a spot on the wall in front of you
Okay.
and look at it.
Okay.
You can write it
Doing-
down afterwards.
I am doing both.
You can write down afterwards. Let's have the experience.
Knew you were
Pick a
going to do
spot on
that.
the wall.
I wasn't, I was just having conversation. All right.
Yeah,
Go
we're
for it.
gonna make that voice go shh, right?
Okay.
Okay. And you pick the spot on the wall, and even
Mhm.
though you're looking straight ahead at that spot,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to expand your awareness to what's happening out to the sides, even though you're still looking straight ahead. So you could see maybe the wall off to one side, or a window, or a door, or whatever it is that's there,
Mhm.
right? And just be aware of how much space there is between you and, the boundaries of the room
Mm-hmm.
either side. And even, still looking straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
What about the space above you, like between where you are and the ceiling? Can you become aware of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And maybe even expand all three of those so that you could almost reach for the space behind you and become aware of that too. So you know roughly how far that shelf is, and roughly where the frame on the shelf is, and where the books are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, just shake it off for a second, come back here.
Okay.
What happened to the voice in your head?
Well, you then became the voice in my head.
Right, but aside from hearing me,
Yeah.
what happened to any other voice in your head?
It went away.
Right. So what you do is you become
Shift your
external.
attention. Okay.
Right? If you focus your attention, you can't be internal and external at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're walking down the street, the back of the head of the person in front of you becomes your focal point, and just notice what's happening to the side, even though you're focusing there.
Okay.
And you notice what's happening. Like, you'd be surprised.
So shift your awareness, shift your attention.
You'd be walking down a high street, looking at the back of the head of the person in front of you, and you'll notice that there's a sale on in the store over there, right? Even though you didn't look in the window, right? But the point is to send your senses, your hearing, your sight, send everything external. Because once you become external and all your attention, because have you noticed like when you're really busy and you have to get stuff done and you're just like, go, like it's no time. Where do all the voices in your head go? There's no time for them. You're completely external at that point.
Yeah.
Doing stuff.
Isn't that along the lines of when you raise your awareness, like if you want to do TJ, I think you mentioned it when you raise your awareness of somebody behind you and then you see the fingers behind you. It's not Hakalau?
Yeah, Hakalau.
Oh, okay, it is. Is that along the same line? It seems like it's along the same lines of just taking your awareness and changing it.
Hakalau a Hawaiian thing?
Yep.
It is? Like, is it from Huna? Yeah. So yes, it is similar.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And the funny part is
I didn't learn it from that origin.
No. I'm just
but I
finding
can see the connection.
Yeah. I think, did you learn that from Overdorf?
I learned it from Overdorf, but I know Overdorf has studied Huna.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And I've had a little fun with it. For those of you that are watching or practitioners, you're watching the replay. I've done this exercise with people and had somebody stand behind that person and hold up a certain amount of fingers. And I'll ask the person who's doing the exercise, and how many fingers is the person behind you holding up? 80% accuracy.
You know, if you practice it a lot, you get to a point where you can hear what people in the next room are saying.
Yeah. Crazy. It's
Even
awesome.
though you can't hear it, like you can't physically hear it consciously, but for some reason your unconscious mind knows what they were talking about, ish, like the general subject. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
crazy. It's crazy.
Tuning into frequencies. It's crazy. And there's Fred.
If you get really into it and you practiced it a bit, Lenora, I'll show you the next step, and it's like super cool. But you gotta do this one first and get good at it. John calls it stopping the world. Right?
Well, now you have our attention.
Right? And just so no, I mean that the peripheral, like if you want to talk like literally the peripheral vision exercise, yeah, is called stopping the world.
Okay.
That's what he calls it. Okay.
Okay.
So like when you walk around that way, like just anytime you remember, just go into peripheral vision and just see how long. Like I can hold peripheral vision for not quite an hour, but like the best part of an hour. I've practiced it a lot, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, the more you do it,
like, and it becomes so easy. And the thing is because you detect movement from your periphery and color from the front, that when you do peripheral vision with your client, you'll spot more unconscious moments that they do. You'll spot the size, you'll spot like, and like sometimes I'm doing a session, I'm like, oh, what was that? What was that? What just happened? And they didn't even know that they did it, but actually it's like a drop of the shoulder or a little something. Like because I'm in peripheral vision, I see all of them. It's crazy. Your awareness just like spikes. In the beginning, it might trance you out a little bit. You do 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. It gets a bit trancy, just shake it off. And then try it. Next time you remember, just try it again over and over and over until you can hold like a whole minute and beyond. And it's just like really, really good. And if you get good at it and you can hold it for a while, then I will show you the next step, which is.
Yeah, and it's also a great protocol for sports and law enforcement, military.
Because it's going to bring you closer to alpha, right? If you're awake in beta, it's going to bring you closer to alpha. And alpha is right around 11 hertz, right? Right around 11 hertz, 10 and a half, up to 11 and a half hertz. You're going to be in that flow state where you're thinking and doing at the same time. It's crazy good.
Okay, so now when you're with a client, you're doing that. Is that the same or along the lines as kind of like an energy sphere?
No, it's not the energy sphere. It's just me paying attention.
Okay.
If I want to do an energy sphere, I will consciously do it.
Okay. Yeah. It's just me paying attention.
I will consciously intend to do it and do it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's not just good for sports or military, it's also good for love too. So
Good answer. Well, we're on your guys' time now. So what else would you like to bring up? And anybody got any topics, questions that they would like to bring to the table?
I want more expanded awareness, please.
Okay.
See how far you can go with it. It's not necessarily how far around you can go, but how far can you go? Like if you were to, pick a spot on the wall and look at that spot, and as you look at that spot, become aware of the space around you, even though you're still looking at that spot, right? And, there's a wall in one direction and a wall or a door in another direction. But what if you were to ask yourself, what's a kilometer or a mile in that direction? How many trees can you become aware of? How many buildings can you become aware of? How many roads? It's like, how far can you go with it? And it can get really trippy really fast.
It starts to move into almost astral traveling then.
Right. It can get trippy fast, but there's a lot of, like, once you get good at peripheral vision, it's, there's a lot of amazing stuff you could do. Like amazing stuff.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Well, this tends to be the area that I'm driving down with my little mini hypno meditation live energetics group. That the expanded awareness. It's the root of everything in the weird and wonderful world.
Okay, I've got a interesting squirrel that just ran across in front of me. With that combined with what we were talking, I know you joined us a little late. We were talking about the difference and importance between goals and objectives, and especially with New Year's resolutions on the way up, where goals are a slippery slope, whereas if you make them so concrete, if you don't achieve them, you have a tendency for inner dialogue and confidence issues and self-image issues. Whereas if you were to change it into objectives, where it's a little more flexible. Now, when you're doing your specialty with the hypnosis and energy stuff, how could you help people, especially with the New Year's resolution coming up, to focus more on objectives versus goals?
I would go a completely different way, that if you have a goal, it's a case of, okay, I'll have this or I'll have something better. And very often the unexpected turns that life creates, actually, even if you don't see it immediately, even if you think it's that didn't work, very often it will actually manifest into something better a bit later on, but you just can't see it. It's just over the horizon, that little bit. And if you can believe that, it doesn't matter. You just know it's that or something better is on the way. So it's just about if you can embrace that belief and hold that belief. Yeah, life shakes you up and makes you think that it's all gone in a heap, but very often that heap has got some real fantastic pearls in its oyster.
See, failure is a trickster with a keen sense of irony. And if you talk to some of the most successful people, or just anyone who's successful in any area that you know, and ask them, they will most likely tell you that the success came right after the point when they were just about to give up.
Yep.
Not just that, but the worst things that have happened in my life have very often led to the best things, or the greatest change of direction that I really needed. It's when you hit the brick wall and you can't go on, that something new has to develop from that. So it ain't all bad. It feels bloody awful at the time, but it ain't all bad. Something really special and new can grow from it, as long as you've got the right mindset to try and stay aware of that, and rather than sort of spiral down into thinking nothing's working for me. And sometimes there is a period of thinking nothing's working for me, but trying to hold on to that belief that, yes, it's just a stepping stone, and it's a wonderful learning stone, even if you can't see that right now. And having like-minded people around you to remind you of that is really useful. And my little I have liked to create a safety net where I've got resources. When one area is not working, I can find resources in another area. And I actually like to write it down and review it and update it every so often. And I'm overdue to do that, about what areas of my life I have got support. If things go to the wall in one area, you've got something else to distract you while the other bits catches up and starts coming good again. And whether it's friends or activities or groups or hobbies or sports, if you've got them there and you can actually see it on a piece of paper, it makes a big difference and gives you the confidence to go on. And that's true also when disaster strikes, in an emergency situation and your brain just goes frozen. If you've got a list of actually written list, maybe by people don't have landline phones anymore, but even on your phone, remembering that there's a list. 1, do this. 2, do that. 3, do that. By the time you've got to 4, you'll be functioning again. And it's kind of the same sort of thing to keep your mind working instead of either freezing or spiraling down.
Yeah. At least three solutions to every event, situation, or problem. And one of the things that popped up on the squirrels that ran across when you were talking about is having your tribe and continually letting your tribe evolve and get better. And one of the things that I was going to tie into Lenora's question about the voices is, whose voice are you listening to? Who else could you have chime in, even in your head? Well, what would Elijah say? Well, what would Aaron say? What would, this voice came up and you realize it's your 14-year-old brat self that is, poo-pooing on everything, and you can't get them to shut up. Well, then you bring in somebody from your tribe and go, all right, well, what would they say?
Yeah, that's sort of going into Milton Erickson's experiences with one of his clients who never actually got to talk to him, but who imagined talking to him. And I've done this a couple of times. It works really well. Mm-hmm. So some of my colleagues have unwittingly been my mentors when I needed a boost.
Yeah, it's kind of along the lines of three-chair therapy. You put somebody else on the other side from you, or on the other opposite side of that voice in your head, and let them hash it out a little bit while you sit off on the side and watch what's going on as an observer and pick up what makes most sense to you. I think it was Jordan Peterson was talking about our ability, some people's ability to be able to evaluate thoughts from an outside perspective. And unfortunately, it's not as common as we would like. Some people have one voice and it's right here, and they can't step outside to evaluate what's going on in here. And I don't know if that's, again, a learned or a gifted capability. But I would like to think it's learnable. Trey?
It's the same sort of thing as either, people who feel religious can talk to God, you can talk to nature, you can create your own avatar to talk to. And with working with one of my colleagues who happens to be in the room, who shall remain nameless, who helped me contact a wonderful avatar, I've just got that resource available, and everybody needs that, just that wise voice to talk to. And it makes, I mean, it takes you, it seems to create thoughts that you wouldn't have thought that you would have thought of. It seems to be bigger than you.
My thoughts exactly. Yeah. And Lenora sent a message in of, I've been questioning the voices much more these days, catching them way faster. The reason I brought that up is it brought up a squirrel. A lot of people, their voices are too quiet for them to recognize. They hear them just as strongly, but they can't tell where they're from or what direction they're in or who the voice actually is. One of the things Dr. David brings up is he'll have people close their eyes and bring about very common statements. And he'll have them point to where the voice is coming from. And quite often, they'll be pointing here. And a lot of that came from when you were a kid. Where were your parents talking from?
Above your eye line.
Yeah. All the elders, the voices were coming from up here. And they lodged in that direction. But again, the reason that I thank you for sharing that, Lenora, and I hope you don't mind me sharing it with everybody else, but is when you get better at dealing with this, the voices become clearer and a bit louder, I believe, so that we recognize them as soon as they show up. Well, that was a dumb thing to do. Well, it's not here anymore. It's right here, or it's right here, and you can go, who asked you? I didn't ask you. Yeah, things happen. And now we're going to come up with solutions to it, because there's 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem. So why don't you just go sit back in the dark and be quiet? I got stuff to do. Don't need you in here right now.
Or the position of the voice. Of course, the higher it is, the more authority it has. So if you kind of move it behind you and below, or maybe near your backside, it has more, you can have more of a laugh at it.
Yes, exactly. Put it on the floor and then stomp on it. Just go, you know what? I'm tired of you. And for those of you that fast forwarded through the recording and stopped on this point, rewind back to the beginning. It'll make more sense.
This is an episode worth rewinding. Yeah, it's coming back to something Fran was saying about realizing it's bigger than you, or realizing, what did you say, Fran? Realizing that it's much bigger than you, or
Well, are you talking about the voice?
not the voice, but like the reality of
the
life.
Reality is bigger than you, and you don't know what's over the horizon.
Right, and what's over the horizon, that kind of thing. Right?
We go in stages. I'm sorry, I'm hijacked now.
Yeah. No, you're all right. You can go if you like. You're fine.
I was going to say we tend to go in stages where we reach a point, we plateau, and then we kind of hit a brick wall and we think that nothing's working, but it's actually just a pause while we're readjusting our energy, our internal perceptions. And it feels like nothing's working, but just be patient. You do get through that. Feels like a dark night of the soul, but there's good things on the other side, really good things on the other side.
Well, one nice thing about walls, when you hit the wall, you still have 3 directions to go. Left, right, up. And so many people sit there right there and go, I can't do anything. I've tried everything. What about that direction? Well,
Oh, look, there's a gate there.
but I've never gone that way before. I've always gone this way. I know that's when you hit the wall. How about that way? I've
People,
begun. Yep.
right? People seem to think that they are somehow separate from this world. You know, I'm going to get a bit trippy now. I'm sorry. Okay. You know, this concept of I, the concept of I, me, right? And that I am somehow contained within a vessel of sorts, and that, you know, where do you stop when the rest of the world begins? That's my question. All right, because I'm here to tell people that you are to this earth what a wave is to the ocean. Right? You're just another part of Mother Nature. Okay. And that's kind of where my mind went when Fran said, oh, it's so much bigger than you. Right? To realize that there is like this kind of interconnectedness of, and this is again coming back to, like, you know, what's eventually going to happen if you keep practicing the peripheral vision and the long distance, and what you're saying about this whole astral travel thing, right? Is that you're going to realize eventually that your consciousness is but a small piece of something much, much greater. And it's a very integral piece, right? It's a very valuable piece, and it's very significant in one way, while simultaneously being insignificant in another way. And once you can kind of get beyond yourself, because that's where the blocks are. 9 times out of 10, it's you blocking yourself.
Yes, amen.
Right? And so once you can get beyond yourself, beyond this concept of I, me, and the separateness between you and the world, right? Then things just start happening. Things start opening up. I can't put it into words, right? And sometimes, you know, we've been, you know, some of us here have been lucky enough to witness people go through that transformation and really become something more, something bigger, and something that is way beyond what they thought they were shooting for, right? And create incredible lives and go forward and do amazing things for communities and whatever. So yeah, just understand that when something is challenging, what's the right way to say it?
Well,
Keep going.
one thing I wanted to toss in real quick.
Going through hell, keep going.
Yeah, keep going. The difference between relentless versus stubborn. Stubborn is the person that hits the brick wall and keeps slamming against the brick wall, and they're like, I got to get through. I'm just going to. Whereas relentless are the people that, like, well, I'm going to get to the other side, whether I have to go over, around this side, around this way, dig underneath it. I will get through there. Relentless versus the stubborn. There's a way through around somehow without banging your head on the same 6
Even
inches.
if you don't know what that way is, that's the thing. Okay, you know, this idea of like leap of faith, right? To leap without looking. You know, I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, there was a book, Ready, Fire, Aim, right? It's the same, like, you know, this idea, like, choose what you want, and then, you know, have a plan, right? I'm not saying don't have a plan. Have a plan, but be prepared to adapt on the way, and just go before you even know how you're going to do it. Go. Do you think the Wright brothers knew how to fly an airplane before they did? Like, everybody told them they were crazy, right? And they built this contraption of sorts, and they went like 15 feet before they crashed, And everyone, you went 15 feet. And they looked at each other and went, we went 15 feet. And they interpreted it in a different way, right? And they kept going, even though much of the technology that was required to fly people across the ocean hadn't even been invented yet. Yet they still kept going. They didn't know how they were going to do it, but they did it.
And not only that, when you look back at the designs and all the things that went before them, there was a history of a number of people who had tried the concept and failed. And yet they were like, well, we're going to do it. We're going to try our way.
Because you have to be, I mean, you don't have to be this, that was bad language, sorry. But, you know, it would help if one were able to believe in something that they have no proof of.
Yes.
That would help massively, right? In any situation, because I have no proof of how to lose, you know, 100 pounds in weight. That doesn't mean it can't be done, right? I have no proof how to master a new language in just 12 weeks, but that doesn't mean it can't be done, right? I have no clue how to go from being 100,000 in debt to making $1 million surplus in 1 year, but that doesn't mean it can't be done.
Yes.
Right? And so there has to be a willingness to believe in something that you have no proof over, and to take steps forward and be willing to learn and adapt and adjust as you go. And in a sense, that's why ignorance is bliss, because you're ignorant to the idea of failure. That's what you're ignorant to.
That's always a useful skill. Or having the perspective that if people tell you it can't be done, you'll bloody well prove that it can. That tends to be one of my motivators. But going back to your part of humanity, Elijah, of us just being part of that wave, we are actually the totality of our perception of the world, of the universe. So why not make it a good one? We are the only experience we have for us. So
people, the brain is an organ that named itself. Okay. Right. Yeah, everything you know, the alphabet, numbers, you know, language, spices, food, fuel, electricity, like everything was made by man. Seriously. You know, unless it's like a tree or some kind of plant, it was made by man. Okay. And instead of living within what you know, understand that everything else that's not what you know is also possible beyond the boundaries of what you can currently see. You know, like Sigmund Freud was, aside from the crazy, you know, what I think is crazy is, you know, the sexual obsession that he had, right? But aside from that, he was like really into neurology and neuroscience and studying the brain. Unfortunately for him, he lived in a time where we didn't yet have the instruments that we have today.
Yes.
Right? And if we did have the instruments that we have today back then, he would have made generations worth of progress because he was on the right track. Right? In some ways. So my point is, I don't even know what my point is anymore. I lost it, you know.
Yeah.
Keep going, you know. If you want something and you have the desire, but there seems to be no way of achieving it, just keep going. Because there is a way, you just didn't like come across it yet.
That's one of the things I love about kids. You know, kids are much more open to the concept of not knowing what they don't know. That's why they ask so many questions. And then you get statements out of them like, If I was born in Italy like 200 years ago, I'd never know how to speak English.
I have a lovely phrase lovely little story, in my opinion, from my dad that has affected my life, that he pointed out, life is like trying to get into a house through the front door. If the front door's shut, is the back door open? If the back door's not open, can you get in through a window? There's more than one way of achieving your goal. Don't be stuck by thinking, okay, I can't do that. There may be many, many ways to achieve your goal. And his story about if you can't go in the front door, find another way in, set me up for a good way of looking at problem solving.
Yeah, well, and one little spin you could put on that is think like a thief. If it's your house and you have to get in, think like a thief. And that's one way that I've learned to help homeowners make their houses more protected. If you understand this side, it's much easier to know how to address it on this end.
I want to ask Lenora about her question in the chat, because I didn't really get it. What did she mean by the wall and ego and stuff?
You started off saying when you said that you're thinking that it's just about me and that I'm separate from everybody, and isn't that the ego?
The ego is somewhat like it tries to keep you separated from it, because the thing is, like, you can't just, because you don't want to drive yourself insane and be crazy, that there, you do need to have a sense of self.
Yes.
Right. But at the same time, we are so conditioned, like, there are children who are born who see like colors and flashes and things like that, but because the adults don't see it, they learn to stop seeing those things. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
Right. So there is, yes, the ego will try to keep you the same and keep itself defined, if you like, right? Because it likes that. But that's not to say that you can't expand and become more than, because you are already more than what you think you are. Because if you are what you think you are now, like if I ask you, who are you? And you consider all the things that you are, a friend, a sister, a brother, all the things you are, right? Then when you eventually give me the answer to that, who's doing the answering? Because if that's all you are, then who's the you that's looking at that and saying, well, that's...
Lots of levels of separation.
Right. So in short, yes, it is. Oh, did I get disconnected? Can you still hear me?
You're going in and out a little bit.
Okay, well, let me know if it gets bad again.
Okay.
So yeah, in short, it is the ego, but the ego can also grow and learn, right? And you, as long as you know that it's a part of you that's trying to keep you safe, right? Then you don't have to be like bound by it either. Yeah.
I think you've touched on one of the defining moments of my personal journey in actually finding that your ego and your inner self is actually designed to keep you safe, even though it seems sometimes to be tripping you up, that it's got your highest good as its intent, even if it's a little bit misguided at moments. And I didn't get that until rather late on in life, I think.
Yeah, it's quite a concept when you point out to people that oftentimes some of the limiting beliefs and some of the things that are holding you up is your subconscious trying to make sure that you don't change because it wants you to be safe. Because change is scary. You don't know what's on the other side of that wall. And so you have to, look at all the stuff that's involved in it and decide who's in charge.
Right. Because when Aaron visited here, we had a discussion about like the ego and shadow and various parts of the self, and how sometimes we vilify part of ourselves and blame parts of ourselves for our own, let's say, for lack of a better word, shortcomings. But really, you don't want to get rid of that, because to get rid of that would be to get rid of a part of yourself, and really what you want is an integration and to become whole. You can't, like, who was it? I don't remember who it was, but they said you can't just love the soft middle part of the bread. You have to love the crust too, right? I think it was Chris Rock who said that. And yeah, and we when Aaron was here, we did a trance thing, and I kind of came up against a serious, like, inner voice persona type thing that was like, no, you can't continue down this path, and it's not safe, and I'm not going to allow you. And after having this, I remember in the trance, I just hugged that person, that part of me, just hugged him, and as if to say, don't worry, it's okay, I know you got my back, and there's no hard feelings. I fully accept what you're trying to do, but I'm going to go this way anyway. And it was like the wall was breaking down, and there was expansion, and there was, like a drop of water that rejoins the rest of the pool of water. That's how it felt.
Cool.
And there's so much knowledge to be gained if you talk to that dark part of yourself, the denied aspect.
Yes.
That's a really big hint to how you can progress your life in a wonderful way, just by listening to that part of you, because you've shut down the listening to that, which is why it is that dark part of you that. But it's always really interesting if you do talk to it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sort of, we're calling it the dark part, but it's almost like it's not a dark part, it's just standing in a shadow, and so to tie it back to Lenora's question earlier, which I know she'll hate because she thought we'd finally gotten off the topic, but first of all, the voices in our head aren't real voices. They're not real. If it might sound like you, or it might sound like someone else, but clearly, like, if it sounds like your mom's not in the room now. She's not really in your head. It can only be you. And I find that the best mileage that you get when you have a voice or a part, I mean, they're all the same thing really in different forms, but is to not try and out logic it and kind of go, if it's saying don't do that, and it's like, well, can't you see that it's good for me to do that? No. It's much better to just say, okay, well, what do you want, or what do you need? And generally, if you can show that you can empathize with the part, then it will become more flexible in thinking about things, because really it has a goal behind it for why it's there and why it's borrowing that voice and why it's telling you those things. And generally, if you give it a better way to do that, it will choose to do it that way instead of the way that kind of is less than positive or less than useful. because as Fran says, it's and Elijah said as well, it's in the end it's got your back. It just, sometimes doesn't pick the best way to do that, or to express that.
Or it needs updating.
99
Yeah,
times
well,
out
that's the
of
thing,
100.
right? It's usually it can often just be something that's frozen in time as well, from somewhere in the past, which doesn't understand that things have moved on and this isn't the best way to do it anymore. But I did a thing just like this on our other meetup over the weekend, and at a certain point, working with this person on the call, she said, the part just said to you, thank you for understanding me and like understanding why, what I want. And it was kind of after that where it started to whisper little things, little hints of maybe I'm not quite so solid around this, maybe it's okay to let them know this bit of information or that bit of information, which it normally would hold on to, but we're kind of gateways into, breaking down things or rebalancing things, I guess.
Everyone needs to be heard, including your shadow self. Everyone appreciates it and cooperates if you actually take the time to listen.
I did put a link in the video. In the chat to a video that is entitled "The Power of Knowing Your Dark Side." It's 10 minutes or so in your own time. When this eventually goes up on YouTube, DJ, with your permission, I'll put it in the comments as well, so anyone who's watching can also check it out. It's really good.
Cool. And I was just going to ask you to do that. And could you say the title of the
video is Carl Jung, The Power of Knowing Your Dark Side.
Okay. Thank you. That brings us up to 18 minutes left in this one. Any other questions, topics, or things that we want to go over? I still have, we used the whole hour for the one topic that I brought up earlier. So anything else you guys want to throw in, or should we talk about energy massage? Okay.
We're very lenient. It's you for all here. Whatever you
Well,
like.
but I try to respect the fact that the second hour is your guys's, to make sure that we've got questions and topics that you've brought up are addressed as well. But I wanted to share, I've got a background in massage, and now tying that in with all of the things that is in this realm, I've been teaching different massage therapists the importance of intentional energy when giving a massage. And the last two massage therapists, in fact, one was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Caught on to it pretty well. It'll probably take a few more sessions for them to get the whole realm of it. But the difference in pressure that they can apply, especially like to me, because I'm very conscientious about it, is dependent on the energy, the color of energy that they're putting into the pressure. And so there'll be a couple of times where, I'm one of those, I don't mind chatting while I'm getting a massage, and they'll hit a knot or something, they're working it out, and I'm dying. I'm like, and I'm trying to breathe out, and I'm like, I learned a while back, I'm like, okay, hold on just a sec. Close your eyes, and what color or colors of energy are inside of that muscle knot that you're trying to work out? And at first they're like, well, I'm like, and I explained to them a little bit the idea between color breathing and the fact that it's not the color, it's whatever pops up. What color or colors of energy are you feeling inside of that muscle knot you're trying to work out? Say red, okay? What color or colors of energy do you think you could send through that red to make it dissipate? Yellow. As soon as they acknowledge that extreme discomfort goes away, even though I can feel they're pushing just as hard. They're still popping the muscle back and forth, trying to break up the fibers inside of the knot. But because they're applying a different energy through their hands, I can take the pressure much, much better. And one lady that I saw before this one, unfortunately she moved, got it really good. She was getting really good towards the end at managing the energy that she was using for the massage. And one of the funny things was, we're sitting there chatting and she was working on my feet. And all of a sudden, we made the mistake of, she was talking about her ex. Woo! The energy that came out of there about had me levitating off of the table. I was like, whoa, 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 what color energy was that? She goes, oh, black. I'm sorry. I'm like, yeah. Think about your kids. Woo, much better. I said, what color energy is that? Pink. I'm like, good. Pink works. Pink feels a lot better. Yeah, we're going to talk about your kids for a bit. And again, I could tell that it wasn't the pressure difference. It was the energy that was flowing through her hands while she was doing the massage. Now, if any of you, if it's been a while since you've had a massage, guess what? Time for some homework. I know, terrible. You're going to have to go out and get yourself a massage. Okay, I only saw one person smile on that. I'm asking you to go get a massage because you're worth it. And talk to the masseuse, and bring up this concept. Teach them about the different energies that they can put through their hands. Anybody got any questions, ahas, epiphanies they'd like to share on that?
I like to choose mine very carefully for exactly that reason. And people I work on with massage myself, I can't just work on anybody, and I can't comfortably receive a massage from just anybody because of the energy that's being projected. And sometimes people don't understand.
Yes. I was just as guilty when I was when I was going to classes for massage. There was another gentleman in the class who I felt was much more technically accomplished than I was. He had memorized all the names of the muscles and everything and all the above. But a bunch of the ladies in the class, word got around, they couldn't stand to get a massage from him. As soon as he would touch them, their skin crawled. And he wasn't creepy or, I'd watch him and he was cool about it. there was something in his touch. And now that I understand this part, I'm pretty sure that there was something in his energy that transferred through in the massage. So I just wanted to throw that out there and again give you guys some terrible homework of go get a massage.
You know, I was expecting you to go somewhere completely else with this. I was expecting you to go like, you know, you said energy massage. I thought like you could have like massage someone from range
Perfect.
or that kind of thing. But
how would now that you expected that with your background, how would you envision that? Because I love.
Well, you know, I operate on a strict look but don't touch policy.
Mhm.
Because, you know, karma. But yeah, I mean, I have in years gone by when I was new to the stuff and just, you know, I have attempted to make somebody stumble or you know, not, I don't want them to fall or anything, but I just want to know if I could get them to stumble, you know, or if I could get them to maybe scratch the back of their head or, you know, that kind of thing, just by focusing in certain ways. And again, you'd be surprised how well it works. You'd be surprised how well it works, which then brings you to, you know, coming back to like working with clients and stuff. You know, when you're able to envision them having solved their problem before they have, that's actually a big kicker. You know, it really, really helps a lot.
And
Right.
also, if you're delivering massage remotely via energy, you are definitely focused on the energy that you're sending. You can't not be, and the person that's receiving it. And yes, that would be again something you'd want permission for before you did it, I think.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that have a special somebody, learning how to do types of energy massage, and it can be something as simple using an energy massage to take away a headache. When you start understanding the manipulation and movement of energy, it helps a lot more.
I think you can very often do a lot more remotely than you can hands-on as well.
All the above.
Seems to be multiplied the power of it if you do it remotely.
Which kind of ties into remote healing, which a funny story about that when Dr. David was teaching remote healing, and I think it was under Reiki, we had an odd number of students, and so it was time to do 3-on-3 protocol. Well, I was odd man out, and he goes, well, don't you have somebody who has something? And I texted with a friend of mine just before class, and they were having sciatica or something. And so I sent her a quick text and said, I'm going to do some energy work. I'm going to send you a healing package. Let me know when you receive it and what color it is. And just before the exercise finished, I get a text back, thank you. It feels so much better. It was yellow. And I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 high, where did you start? Where did you finish? Took her from an 8 to a 1. And I went, cool. So then Dr. David's going around the class, you know, getting stories about, you know, what's this, what's that. He gets to me and I said that, and he goes, and where is she now? And I was like, I think she's in Colorado. I mean, that's the direction I sent it. And so curiosity got to me right away. And I'm like, by the way, where are you at right now? Arizona. It didn't matter that I was focusing the energy out towards Colorado. It went straight to her, and you know, you can't make stuff like this up. So yes, you can do that type of work, those types of healings across great distances.
Practice the basics first.
What's that?
Practice the basics first. Right? Learn how to go into a trance. Learn about breathing and breathing patterns, things like that. Like, when you start combining these kinds of things, the power of it is just insanely exponential. You know what I mean? It's crazy how effective it can be. Certain postures, certain breathing patterns, certain depths of self-trance, and certain intentions, and they all combine. It's not just a simple imagination game, which it is, but it's not.
Yeah, I was going to say, imagination game, I don't know, I'd call it simple, but effective for sure. Well, that brings us to 3 minis left. Anybody got any last quick comments or things they'd like to share before we close down this section or this session? I did come across a couple of good quotes if you would like to hear them. Here's one for you. Nothing great will ever be achieved without great men, and men are great only if they are determined to be so. Charles de Gaulle. And that's not just men versus women. That's what I could read it. Nothing great will ever be achieved without great humans, and humans are great only if they are determined to be so. Because there are a lot of humans who are given many opportunities to be great and don't have the drive to get there. And here's another one here's a quick question for our people across the way. Do you guys celebrate Thanksgiving in your countries?
No.
Okay, this will mean very little to you. Here in America, we have a holiday, a holy day, Thanksgiving. We actually decided to pick one for that. Unfortunately, everybody's turned it into a commercial celebration of eating too much and watching a football game. But for those of us in the States, I thought this quote was fitting, especially to jumpstart Thanksgiving and give gratitude. It's feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. William Arthur Ward. I'll read it one more time. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. That being said, I have immense gratitude for you guys constantly showing up to help me do this little thing that I decided to do about 3 years ago. Just didn't think that I had enough to do it, and decided the first of this year that I was going to give it a shot. And without you guys, I'd be talking to myself, which happens quite a bit, but I don't record it nearly as much as I do here. So thank you for that. For those of you that are watching the recording, Thank you as well. I certainly appreciate. For those of you that are watching this live on YouTube, I have not forgotten about you, even though, yes, I've forgotten to mention it a couple of times. Thank you for being along for the ride as well. Again, my website is thetswv.com, thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. And the YouTube channel is TSWB Helps. And as all good things with YouTube and all the above, please hit subscribe and ring the bell, and please leave comments on my Facebook and on the YouTubes and stuff, and share this with others. I'm just so blessed to be able to do this every week and have you guys share your time, because as I say every single week, time is the only thing I cannot give you, no matter how much I want to. So for you to take that precious commodity and share it with me means a lot to me. So with that, I will bid adieu. Blessings on you all. I'm going to go out and be nice to people. Love you all. Bye.
Bye.